Now, another issue that you've been extremely vocal on that affects not just your community, but man, it seems to affect every community, and that's homeless.
Yeah.
The homeless. 10 years ago, I worked in the middle of downtown San Diego, right off of Broadway, right where the Horton Plaza, it used to be Horton Plaza, and it used to be the NBC building.
It's uninhabitable now.
Unbelievable. I just went there a year ago for the first time in years, and I walked from downtown to Little Italy, which used to be a really nice walk. And now it was like I was on the set of some post-apocalyptic movie
It's exactly true.
in the middle of downtown. It was crazy. So it's not just San Diego; it's every town in even some of these artsy frou-frou beach towns, Del Mar and Solana Beach. Every single town, it seems, is dealing with a homeless problem. And you've been very vocal on that. Talk about that. You're the mayor of El Cajon, a city in San Diego, in California.
Yeah.
You're where the rubber meets the road. So tell us what's really going on. The unvarnished,
Yeah, I'll tell you exactly what's going on. Well, first off, I just want to re-mention that for 35 years, since 1988, however long that is, I've been in mental health. And so many of those years I worked in the emergency room doing psychiatric evaluations. I know this population. And let me tell you something. If you ask any cop, any firefighter, any EMT or paramedic, they're going to tell you that 95 to 100% of the people that are on the streets are drug addicts. And that's why they're homeless. It has nothing to do with housing. It has nothing to do with falling through the cracks. It has nothing to do with money. It's that people don't want to spend any money on anything other than using drugs. And the state of California helps them do that. Now, why is California so much worse? California is worse because the state of California has decided, for whatever reason, we could debate that all night long. They've decided that homelessness is a viable option. It's something we should promote. So California has 180,000 people on the streets that are homeless. There's no other states are even close. Texas is the next closest one with 25,000. New York is the next closest one with 25,000.
Wow.
Places like Nevada, like 13,000. Hawaii, 7,000. So you can't even tell me it's about the weather. It's because California has given more benefits, more money. They've said, we're not going to arrest you for stealing. We're not going to arrest you for assault. We're not going to arrest you for doing drugs or selling drugs. Or you can live however you want. Now, what does California get out of that? That's debatable. I personally think that they want to tear down society and rebuild it as a communist utopia. But that's another. But I'm against it. Homelessness is not. I want to make this really clear, at least in my opinion. Homelessness is not an affliction that came on us like a disease. Homelessness is something that we invited. And we ask people all over the country to set up shop and be homeless here. And California does everything they can to protect that. All the tools that municipalities usually have for arresting people for vagrancy, for assault, for stealing, for using drugs openly, all these things have been taken away from us. And we get sued constantly by the state of California for not providing more rights for the homeless people. So this is something that I think, and frankly, I think the main reason is there's so much money in it.
Yeah.
$25 billion was spent in the last 5 years on this,
Jeez.
and we have nothing to show for it. But the NGOs, who are friends of the Democrat leaders of the state, are getting very, very wealthy, and they're passing that money back to Democrat politicians.
Jeez. So what works? I think it's pretty clear how the negative impact on El Cajon. But what works? What needs to happen? What could happen? And how could we be better?
I mean, in El Cajon, it's really complicated because we get zero money for homelessness. So every dollar we spend well over $1 million a year, has to come out of the general fund. That's just taxpayer money that we could be spending on parks or firefighters
El Cajon spends $1 million a year on homeless.
Oh yeah,
on just homeless issues. Wow.
We last year we took away 100 tons of debris from the sewer system from homeless people.
Jeez.
3 out of every 5 of our calls for the police are homeless related calls.
Jeez.
And it's overwhelming our city. But so can we play a hypothetical game?
Sure. Yeah.
Let's say that I was made king.
Yeah.
King of California,
Right.
and I could do whatever I want.
Right.
I could solve homelessness, and that's not hyperbole. Homelessness is not that hard to solve, but it takes 3 major steps. One, we have to have the political will to say it's not about money or housing, it's about drug addiction. Number 2, we have to change the laws and allow the municipalities to arrest people for committing crimes. We also have to change the laws, what we call the LPS laws. That's the Latimer-Petras short laws, which allow us to take people off the street against their will if they're a danger to themselves, others, or grave disability. We're not allowed to take people off the streets for being zombied on drugs in the middle of the street, or perpetually living under a bridge, or living in a box. We need to change those laws.
What does it take currently? What does it take to get somebody off the streets?
You have to.
If let's just say like a typical drug addict, homeless, wandering around, panhandling, whatever. What does it actually take? To get
I actually have a license to write one of those holds, and so I've written thousands of them. You can put somebody in a hold for being a danger to themselves, meaning they're actively suicidal, a danger to others, meaning they're actively homicidal, or gravely disabled, which means you're so psychotic that you can't access food, clothing, or shelter even if it's provided for you. So if police rolls up on somebody, they're naked, they're screaming at a lamppost, they're hitting the metal with their fists, they're just out of their mind crazy, and the cop says, hey, if I gave you a place to sleep, or if I gave you food, would you eat it? And he said, sure. There's nothing we could do. You can't take somebody off the street for that, even if they're the craziest person you've ever seen. And the same with the hospitals. Hospitals aren't allowed to write holds unless they're so psychotic that if you said, eat this sandwich, they would say, no, that sandwich is radioactive, and throws it away. Then you could put them on a hold. Other than that, you can't. So we need to toughen up those laws and say when you've been arrested 7 or 8 times for sleeping under the bridge, and you're out in the elements, and you're doing so much meth and fentanyl that you're being taken to the hospital for overdoses over again. At some point, we could say, okay, we're going to take you before a judge, and the judge will then say you're commended to go to treatment or to jail.
Yeah.
Unless we have the political will to do that, we're not going to solve this problem. And then just the last one.
Yeah.
This is the hard one. We're going to have to build state hospitals again.
That's exactly what I was going to ask. I mean, clearly, I don't think somebody who's a drug addict and either they're crazy because they're drugged out of their mind, or they've been drugged out of their mind so long that they are now crazy. You can't. Jail's not the right place for them. So we'd have to build more mental hospitals, huh?
I think in most cases, yes. There's this debate, well, is it mental illness or is it drug addiction? And as somebody who does this for a living, I can tell you most of the time we don't know. You can't tell the difference. At some point, it all merges into one.
Yeah.
Sometimes we know that they had a diagnosis before they become drug addicts, but a lot of the people that have schizophrenia diagnoses, they're wandering the streets, and just because of the environment, they get involved in the drugs as well. But I don't know. So
the mental health hospitals, you'd say we definitely have to. We'd have to house them somewhere with some kind of program to.
Let me just put it in perspective. Any society, anywhere on the earth, statistically, 1% of that society will have schizophrenia. And that means hearing voices, seeing things so psychotic that you can't work or get married or drive a car. You're so disabled. So that means we've got 35,000 people statistically in San Diego that have schizophrenia. We have 100 beds in the county to treat this. The rest of it, we have another couple hundred long-term beds that are in private facilities. But we have no way to take care of these people. These people are taken care of in what we call board and cares, which are just private homes that make it their business to take care of schizophrenics. And some of them are okay, most of them are not. They get $600 or $1,000 a month to take care of these people. They give them the bare minimum of food, the bare minimum of care, and they just wander the streets all day. That's not what a civilized society should be doing. We should have hospitals to take care of them. And we did have hospitals, and unfortunately Ronald Reagan was part of I love Ronald Reagan, but he was part of that.
Yeah, I've heard that. I've heard that he shut them all down and said, hey, we're not going to.
He did it because he kind of had to. There was this big movement after One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest came out that people were saying state hospitals are cruel and unusual. And at the same time, Thorazine had just been developed. So the scientists were saying, oh, schizophrenia has been cured now. You don't need hospitals anymore. And he was like, well, the people don't want it. They're all against it. The doctors say we don't need it anymore. I guess we can close the hospitals down. He made a mistake, but I think he was good intentions, but it was a mistake.
It is crazy listening to some folks, like the mayor of San Diego, Todd Gloria, listening to him talk about the homeless issue. It's like he doesn't even live on the same planet. I mean, he's going down this path of saying, well, gee, we just don't have enough affordable housing. And if you walk around, like I said, when I was walking around his city downtown, and it looked like an apocalyptic movie set, it wasn't that the folks that were there, it's not that they just couldn't balance their checkbook and save a couple of bucks and buy a house. It's that they were either drugged, crazy, or both.
Yeah, you see these people who are like zombies, walking in the streets, and they're screaming at lampposts, and they're naked, and they're dirty, and they're just like out of their minds. Imagine you take that guy and you say, hey, guess what? We've got a condo for you. And we put him in the condo. It's like everything's going to be good.
Sure.
Make sure you sign up for SDG&E and, and get your carpets cleaned. And, no, he's like, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
He can't do any of those things.
He's just saving up for, the down payment, Bill. That's all.
Yeah.
And I don't mean to mock the homeless. They have problems. So maybe it's self-induced or maybe it's not. But the idea that a politician, Mayor Todd Gloria down there is saying, well, gee, we just don't have enough. It's so delusional. I don't even know what to do with that.
So statistically, in the past 5 years, the state of California has built 37% more housing units for the homeless. Sounds like a good thing, right? Well, we have 51% more people on the street today than we did 5 years ago. So,
jeez.
And we've spent $25 billion doing this. It's not working, guys. But do you know that, like Sandy Rescue Mission and the East Canton Transitional Living Center, they cannot get any funding from the state at all because the only funding the state will pay for is housing first. So if you say, no, I don't think it's a housing problem, I think it's a drug and alcohol problem, I think it's a spiritual problem, I think it's a medical problem, they say, okay, no money for you. And so they only pay for housing programs that everybody knows doesn't work.
So is there a light at the end of the tunnel? Is there any good happening on the homeless issue, or are we still right in the thick of it and it doesn't look like there's anything
I don't think there's anything
coming down the pike?
I don't think there's anything good tangibly. I think the fact that America seems to be on a different track right now, America seems to have red-pilled, and they're very interested in the common sense. You can tell by the way we're cutting out waste, fraud, and abuse, and I can only hope that sentiment will take hold in California, and people will rise up and throw people out of office and say, "You've had your chance, you've screwed it up." And
well, now, so you're running for re-election in 2 years for mayor, but then in 4 years, you've announced that you want to run to replace Joel Anderson, who will be termed out on the County Board of Supervisors. Is part of the reason that you've announced and you're running for the county board? Is there something more that can be done at the county level to help with homeless?
Oh God, yes. I mean, the county has an $8 billion budget. They have all the mental health money. They have all the homeless money, and they don't spend it. The county yells and screams at us for not having enough shelters, but I've got 3 shelters in my town. Do you know how many shelters are in the entire county of San Diego?
How many?
0.
Jeez.
They have no interest in solving this problem. Somebody needs to go who knows what they're doing with mental health and Health and Human Services, and has the ability to balance a budget. You know, my city has a balanced budget. We have a $100 million reserve.
Wow.
I know how to do this.
Yeah.
But more importantly, we've never had anybody who's really understands the mental health system and the psychiatry aspect of it. You know, I understand the medicine of this. So I think I could do a lot of good.
At the county level.
Yeah.
And it sounds like with that level of budget, it sounds like you could actually have an impact. Like you could improve the quality of life, for the homeless and the drug addicts, as well as the residents of El Cajon and people in San Diego County.
Well, yeah, that's just one issue. I mean, you know, this whole housing issue is I don't know if people really understand it. But the County of San Diego has basically put a moratorium on building anything past, say, like El Cajon. Anything in the backcountry, anything in Ramona or all the places where everybody cries about not having enough housing. But the developers would love to build housing out in the backcountry, but they're not allowed to because the county puts these VMT taxes on it. It makes it impossible to build. They can't pencil out the projects because they're so wrapped up in this climate hysteria. And so there are so many quality of life issues that the county affects, and I don't think most people understand it. Frankly, I didn't understand it until I got into politics. I had no idea what the county did, but they are the most powerful organization much more powerful to you than your Congress people are.
When people really realize that, I think I knew that, and I got to tell you, up until 2020, being a being a supervisor on the county board was like the best job in the world. No one cared what they were doing. You know, they could do whatever they wanted. They were well funded. But I think when people really truly realized that and started paying attention to the county board was 2020 when COVID hit.
Yeah.
Which was crazy. And they had a huge part to play in that. And you were the mayor of El Cajon during all that.
Right. And, I did exactly the opposite of what Nathan and the county did. I said, we're not going to enforce any COVID regulations. We're not going to fire anybody for not taking the jab. We're not going to go and bother people for not wearing a mask. And it was interesting. I took a lot of heat for that at the time. But obviously history has shown that I was in the right.
Yeah, well, and I think you had the background to back up what you were saying. It didn't seem like people were, why are we listening to Nathan Fletcher?
Yeah, I mean, we go back to the whole COVID life, but I could read a study. Even though, because people can say, well, virology is not your expertise. I say, yeah, but I know enough to be able to read a study. There's all kinds of studies that. None of this makes any sense. Even Fauci himself was saying that masks didn't do anything.
Yeah.
And we can go back to do the whole COVID thing. But yeah.
Hey, everybody. Thanks for watching. I'm Michael from Gun Owners Radio. If you liked what you saw, please don't forget to like, subscribe, share, and make a comment. Help us out. Go to gunownersradio.com. Thanks for watching.